हरे कृष्णा। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा. So welcome you all back for the 8th day of this course, which is part 3 of self-evaluation tools on the path of bhakti. We are discussing based on this book Madhurya Kadambini by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So till now we had covered Shraddha, Sadhusanga, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, Nishta and Ruchi. We were almost completing but we ran out of time. So today I will do a very quick recap of what we have seen about this stage of Ruchi, and we will complete this chapter and move on to the next chapter, which is Asakti. So as we saw, what is Ruchi? We saw when one practices devotional service. As we saw, there are three. When one is progressing in devotional service, the stimulus for performing devotional service gradually changes. As we saw in Vaidhi Sadhana, the generic stimulus is Shasanenaiva Shastrasya Sa Vaidhi Bhakti Ruchyate. The generic stimulus is coming from the words of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. But within that generic stimulus, if you see, at the stage of Anishtita Bhajana Kriya or unsteady devotional service, there is no steady practice at all due to the influence of Rajogun and Tamogun. Then at the stage of Nishta, the stimulus for steady practice of devotional service comes from Kartavya Buddhi, or a deep sense of duty bound consciousness, which is a symptom of Sattvagun. Then at the stage of Ruchi, what we are seeing right now, the main stimulus for that practice of steady practice of devotional service comes from taste, attraction, great pleasure that one derives from engaging in the devotional activities. So this is what we saw, and so when he develops, when that Kartavya Buddhi transforms into Ruchi, a taste for the activities, then one has reached the stage of Ruchi. And we saw one common reason for devotees to lament or feel disappointed in about their progress in devotional service is because they think progress means taste. Yes, it is true, progress does mean taste at a later stage, but progress also means strength to fight the anarthas, strength to overcome the temptations. So where is that strength coming from? We saw the example of EMI, for home loan, paying off the home loan. So similarly, in the initial stages of devotional service, whatever devotional credits that we get, the strength that we get is used to fight off the pullings of the uncontrolled senses and mind. So therefore, one need not feel disappointed. That indeed is actually a symptom of progress, and when at some point it will manifest into taste for sure. But if we start prematurely expecting taste, then we will be disappointed. Then he says that at the stage of Ruchi, the taste experienced by this person is so tangible that he can go on and on and on performing these devotional activities without getting fatigued at all. So then we saw that how another common misconception, that Ruchi follows Nishta and not the other way around. So therefore, steady practice of devotional service is something which is expected of the sadhaka, and when he is steadily practicing devotional service for a long enough time, to inject taste into those very same practices is the responsibility of Krishna. So Krishna will do it. So this we saw based on this nectar of instruction, verse number 7. Syat Krishna nama charitadi sitapya vidya pittopatapta rasanasya narochikanu kintvadarat anudinam kalusaiva jushta swadvi kramad bhavati. So this, here we saw the example of a jaundiced person whose tongue is coated with a layer of pitta or bile. He cannot experience the sweet taste of sugarcane juice. Similarly, a person whose anartha nivritti is not yet complete, his senses are coated with the layer of conditioning. So through that layer of conditioning, the holy name, holy form, holy pastimes, everything tastes bitter only. But if he adarad anudinam kalusaiva jushta, if he respectfully, without any offenses, with regularity and regulation, if he practices devotional service, gradually he will start developing taste. So therefore, one should understand that ruchi follows steady practice. One should not think that I will practice steadily after I get taste. Then that is not going to happen. Then we saw there are two types of ruchi. One is the inferior type of ruchi, another is the superior type of ruchi. The inferior type of ruchi is whenever there is whenever a kirtan or a lecture is filled with material embellishments, very sweetly sung, very wonderfully spoken and all that, then the person feels very spiritually enlivened. So if for his spiritual enlivenment, if he is dependent on the material embellishments of that particular limb of devotional service, that indicates actually impurities in his heart. That is not a true symptom of ruchi, it is an inferior type of ruchi. But when the person does not depend on any material embellishments, but only looks for the spiritual content of that particular kirtan or katha, then that is an indication of true ruchi. So we saw from the example of the life, we saw an example from the life of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. On his departure bed, he wanted Srila Bhaktirakshak Sridhar Maharaj to sing that Shri Rupa Manjari Pada bhajan. So this we saw, and then the last theme that we saw last time was that a person at the stage of ruchi, he is characterized by a feeling of remorse about his past life. Oh, how I had wasted my life. Hari Hari bifale janama gawayinu. Manushya janama paiya Radha Krishna nabajiya janiya shuniya vishakainu. So this is the mood of a person at the stage of ruchi. He has deep regrets over his wasted life. So this we saw, in a very poetic way. So I will not go over it again. Then the last theme that we will discuss today about ruchi is what are the activities of a person at the stage of ruchi. Then in a remote place like a swan, he will begin tasting and speaking reverently the nectarian topics about the Lord. So he will go to a remote place, which means he is not looking for any pujala pratishta. He is looking just for an opportunity to glorify the Lord. So he will go to a remote place and he will begin tasting and speaking about the wonderful nectarian topics of the Lord. The juice from the fruit of the desired tree, the great Upanishad Srimad Bhagavatam containing the mystic science of bhakti. So his taste comes from the nectarian juice of Srimad Bhagavatam. Because Bhagavatam, in every word, every syllable, there is only glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhagavatam itself says, Kalimala samhati kalano akilesho भगवान इतरत्र न गीयते हि अभीक्ष्णम इह तु पुनर् भगवान अशेष मूर्ति परिपटितो अनुपदम कथा प्रसंगैहि. So Bhagavatam says that Kalimala Samhati Kalano Akilesho Bhagavan Itaratra na Giyate hi Abhikshnam. The reality is that except for the book Bhagavatam, in no other literature, including all the Vedic literatures, the Supreme Lord is so consistently glorified. Iha tu, but here in this book Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavan Ashesha Murti, the unlimited personality of Godhead, Paripatito Anupadam Katha Prasangaihi. In every word, in every syllable, the Supreme Lord is glorified unlimitedly. So the only book in which the Supreme Lord is consistently praised in all the verses is actually Srimad Bhagavatam. So therefore, it is called as Nigama Kalpataror Galitam Phalam, the ripened fruit of all Vedic knowledge. Shuka Mukad Amrita Drava Sanyutam. And it has been made more sweet by being tasted by the beak of Shukadeva Goswami, by the mouth of Shukadeva Goswami. So any fruit, especially if you see guava, guava fruit is relished by parrots. And sometimes they exactly know which is a very tasty fruit. And sometimes they eat from one small part. Actually, I don't know about other places, but in South India, one who has that garden, he looks for those fruits and he cuts off that area which the parrot has eaten and they eat that fruit because it's supposed to be the most sweetest. And parrots have a way of identifying the tastiest fruit. So, Shukadeva Goswami, Shuka means a parrot. So, Shukadeva Goswami is the parrot who has identified the most ripened, juiciest, tastiest fruit. Srimad Bhagavatam. Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Muhuraho Rasika Bhuvi Bhavuka. So, the most expert in relisher of this subject matter will choose the book Bhagavatam. So therefore, this person in the stage of Ruchi is looking for rasa. So because Ruchi comes from rasa and Bhagavatam does not contain rasa. Bhagavatam is rasa. He says, Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam. He does not say rasavat or rasatmaka, containing rasa. He says rasa. Bhagavatam is rasa, meaning it has no inferior parts. There is no skin, there is no seed. It is only pure nectarian pulp, juice. It has no fiber also, which will get stuck up in your teeth and you will have to spend the next half an hour brushing your teeth and trying to get that one fiber out. It has no inferior part at all. So therefore, this person will go to a remote place and start relishing Srimad Bhagavatam. He will converse constantly with devotees to the exclusion of all topics other than Krishna, like a curious spectator, first standing, then sitting, finally entering in with full attention. So, he will be wandering around places where Krishna Katha is happening, and first he will stand out and hear, and then he will naturally get drawn in. He will go inside and stand, and then he will get naturally drawn down. He will sit down, and then he will be naturally drawn into the discussion. He will start discussing. That is the magnetic, almost hypnotic effect that discussions of Srimad Bhagavatam has on this person. He can't stop himself. In Bhagavad Gita also, this is described. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dridavrata namasyantascha mam bhaktya nitya yukta upasate. I am sorry, not that verse. He says, Tushyanti cha ramanti cha. In that particular verse, he says that such a person, if he has an audience who are willing to listen, he will speak. If he has a more exalted speaker who can speak very beautifully on the subject matter of Bhagavatam, he will sit and listen. And if there is no second person to either speak or hear, he will spontaneously sing the glories of the Supreme Lord. This is the nature of those who have relished the rasa of Srimad Bhagavatam. Navai jano jatu katanchanavrajin mukunda sevi anyavad atra samsritim smaran mukundangri upaguhanam punar vihatu miche na rasagraho jana. It is mentioned that a Mukunda Sevi, one who has served the Supreme Lord with great affection, he will never give up the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Even if he may drift away a little bit, the fond remembrance of the embrace of Krishna's lotus feet will pull him back immediately. That rasa. Smaran Mukundangri Upaguhanam. Mukunda Angri Upaguhanam. Upaguhanam means embrace. Embrace means fond remembrances of one's ecstatic practice of devotional service. It could be prasadam, it could be kirtan, it could be katha, whatever it may be. Smaran Mukundangri Upaguhanam punar na vihatu michen rasagraho jana. Because he has relished that rasa, he does not want to give it up. So he is drawn. Irresistibly such a person is drawn. So wherever that Krishna Katha is happening, he first stands out, then comes in, then sits down and then starts participating. This is just like gambling. For a gambling addict, when he sees in some remote corner, people are sitting together and playing cards. So he will look at it from a distance, then curiosity will pull him and he would like to see who is winning, and then he will sit with them and he will say, please accept me also in this august assembly. And then he will also start playing like that. So this is the nature of rasagraho, whatever may be that rasa for. Here, in this case, his rasa is for Srimad Bhagavatam. He will take refuge in the Lord's dham and will fix himself purely in Lord's service. So, dhamvas. So, at this point of time, the person gets very strongly pulled towards the holy dham, Vrindavan, or Mayapur, or Jagannath Puri. So, these kind of places he gets completely attracted and he wants to come and go and settle there. Ignorant people will think that he is going crazy. So, just like King Kulashekar in his Mukundamala Stotra, he says, Tyajantu bandava sarve nindantu guravo jana tatapi paramanando govindo mama jivanam. So, King Kulashekar, he is expressing his own heart based on his own experience. He says, King Kulashekar was so attracted to the Supreme Lord that after hearing the tale of the story of Ramayana, literally when Ravana in the battlefield of when the battlefield of Sri Lanka was happening, he literally took his own army and he went to fight on the side of Lord Ram. He was so absorbed in that story, to the extent that his ministers thought this person has gone mad. And his relatives may reject him, thinking that he has gone crazy. Tyajantu bandava sarve. Let my relatives reject me, considering me to be mad. Nindantu guravo jana. Let my elders criticize me for acting in such a ridiculous way. What can I do? Tatapi Paramanando Govindo Mama Jivanam. I am getting so much bliss worshipping Lord Govinda. He is my life and soul. I can't do anything. I am beyond repair. Permanent head damage. Sometimes people say PhD means permanent head damage. So the great devotees, they say, my heart has been permanent heart damage, PhD. My heart has been permanently damaged in a good way by establishing a relationship with Krishna. What can I do? You criticize me, but I am helpless. Can't you see? That's what King Kulashekar is telling. He will take refuge in the Lord's dham and will fix himself purely in the Lord's service. Ignorant people will think that he is going crazy. The blissful devotional service performed by the expert devotees is like a dance. It is like a dance. The devotees begin to learn the lessons of that dance, being taken by the hands of the dance instructress, Ruchi. So, till Nishta, it is fighting with the anarthas. But from the stage of Ruchi, now we are learning to dance in Krishna's, learning to dance to Krishna's tunes. And our first dance teacher is the dance instructress called Ruchi Devi. Her name is Ruchi Devi. She is teaching us to dance. Artha Pravritti has started. Artha Pravritti means we are getting trained to participate in Krishna's pastimes. So that dance instructress is called as Ruchi Devi. He learns all experiencing an extraordinary, unprecedented, unimaginable golden bliss which cannot be described. So this is what Srila Raghunath Das Goswami indicates in his first verse of Manas Siksha. Gurau Goshte Goshtalayishu Sujane Bhusuragane Swamantre Shri Namni Vraja Navayuva Dvandva Sharane Sada Dambam Hitva Kuru Ratim Apurvam Atitaram Aye Swantar Bratas Chatubir Abhiyache Dritapada. He says, my dear mind, I am just pleading with you. Please develop attraction for Gurau, for the Guru, Goshte to Vrindavan, Goshtalayishu to the Vrajavasis, Sujane to all the Vaishnavas, and Bhusuragane to the Brahmanas, Swamantre to your Gayatri mantra, Shri Namni to the holy name of the Lord, Vrajanavayuva Dvandva Sharane, and to the process of surrendering to the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. But what kind of attraction? He says, Apurvam Atitaram Rati. An attraction, a kind of attraction which you have never had for anything or any person in this material world. Develop that kind of attraction. So that kind of attraction, this person at the stage of Ruchi for the first time he has developed. So, Apurvam, unprecedented, unimaginable. So, Apurvam means unprecedented. No, never ever before I have had this kind of an attraction to anything in my life, anyone in my life. This is called as Apurva Rati. Apurva means never before. Na bhuto na bhavishyati. Like that. In what blissful realm will he come to exist when in time he is made to dance by the supreme masters of dance, bhava and prema? So, Vishnu Chakrathakur is telling, he is observing this person who is learning to dance, being taught by the dance instructress of Ruchi Devi. So, Vishnu Chakrathakur is smiling and he is telling, oh, this person is thinking that this could never get better than this. So the person at the stage of Ruchi is telling, this day was such a wonderful day. I think bhakti can I have reached the pinnacle of bhakti. It cannot get better than this. But a person who has reached the stage of prema, he is laughing at that person and he says, just wait and watch. Now you are just learning preliminary dance from the dance instructress called Ruchi Devi. But one day you will be put under the tutelage of the supreme masters of dance, Bhava and Prema. Then you will understand what true bliss is. So if you think that Ruchi is blissful, just wait till you experience Asakti, Bhava and Prema. You will constantly keep redefining your definition of bliss day by day, because day by day the bliss will increase. So in this way, the activities of a person at the stage of Ruchi has been described in such a poetic way by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So therefore, basically we are reading, we may think that what is the relevance of all these stages for us? We are still struggling with our anarthas. True, but at least hearing about these stages should give us a positive, the kind of party that is waiting for us to at the end of the marathon. So what do we stand to gain towards the end of the marathon? So it is just like climbing the uphill of a cycling race. When the second half of the race is complete downhill, you don't even have to pedal. So he's telling, just pull on for some time. Go ahead, keep going, keep going. You are just reaching the peak, after which it's going to be downhill and you can just breeze through the whole thing. It will be so ecstatic. So just to give that impetus, we are reading through these subsequent stages. These are not stages experienced by some great devotees. These are, yes, some great devotees did go through these stages, but these are the stages which are awaiting our own journey, which we will encounter in our own journey of devotional service if we sincerely stick to the process. So just like a person who is preparing for his medical exam, he may think, oh, it's so difficult, so difficult. Why do I have to study 15, 16 hours every day? So then his father takes him to a hospital and he shows many doctors walking around with white coats and stethoscope and treating patients, and patients expressing deep gratitude to the doctors for having saved their lives. And then this boy feels, and then the father looks at him and he says, in a few years, you will be one of them. And he says, and the boy thinks, really? And then he gets positive inspiration to actually go through those 15, 16 hours of grueling study sessions, so that he can get that pleasure, he can experience that pleasure of curing patients and bringing a smile in their faces and bringing a smile in the faces of the family members of that patient. That is a very positive inspiration, positive joy. That even, so this is of course a mundane example, but sometimes if you see doctors, it is such a intoxicating thing actually. In a positive way, I am telling, it's such an intoxicating thing, because you are literally saving lives. And it gives so much satisfaction. So when this boy feels that, oh, one day I'll be doing this, I'll be one of them, I'll be wearing my white coat and stethoscope and I'll be treating patients, I'll be saving lives. So it gives him such a positive inspiration to go through those grueling sessions. So therefore, so reading about these future stages that await us if we sincerely practice is like sharpening the pencil. So when the pencil is sharp, then there is, writing is so much pleasure. We get an inspiration to write. So time and again, when we hear about the prayojan, what is prayojan like? What is the stage of perfection like? It gives us positive inspiration to actually go through what we are going through, which may not be very pleasant right now. Like that. Just like we see on the road, when there is some road construction going on, they write temporary, we apologize for the temporary inconvenience. So kindly tolerate the temporary inconvenience for an eternal convenience. Like that. Of course, in the material world, there is nothing like eternal convenience. What they mean by eternal is, for the next 2 years, you can drive peacefully, and after 2 years, we will put the same board again. Please tolerate temporary inconvenience for eternal convenience. Eternal convenience means next 2 years, like that. So here, Krishna, what Vishnachakya Thakur is promising here, this is actual eternal, not just convenience, actual eternal bliss. That is why we are reading these sections of Ruchi, and Asakti is going to get still more intense. So that's what we are going to start now, which is the 6th shower of nectar, which is Asakti. So Ruchi, as we saw, till Nishta is the stage of neutral, and Ruchi and Asakti are the stages of positive attraction. So positive attraction towards, and this positive attraction manifests in 2 stages. In the first stage, it manifests as Ruchi, which is positive attraction for the process, and in the second stage, it manifests as Asakti, which is positive attraction for the personality of Godhead Krishna. So, what is Asakti? Srila Vishnachakya Thakur writes, after this, when Ruchi, which has bhajan as its object of relish, reaches extreme depth and makes Krishna the object of relish, that is called Asakti or attachment. So, we saw that at the stage of Ruchi and Asakti, there is Artha Pravritti, means a positive experience which is pulling them. It is not just Kartavya Buddhi. So at the stage of Ruchi, which is the preliminary stage of attachment, the attraction is for the process. He gets great joy in chanting, hearing, and worshipping the deities. He gets a positive joy in them. But at the stage of Asakti, not that he loses the taste in the process itself, the taste in the process is increasing, but there is another much more stronger stimulus that is taking over that person, which is a desire to please Krishna. That stimulus becomes more strong. Just like if you had ever had an opportunity watching a marathon race, or you can say like a 1500 meters race, they go around and around many times. Okay, so towards the, let's say a person has been leading for a long time, and towards the last 200-300 meters, everyone starts running faster so that they can end the race. So suddenly from nowhere, while everyone is running fast, suddenly from nowhere one person overtakes everyone and he ends the race, in front of all the other people who are leading him. You see this many times in such long races. Suddenly in the last 400 meters, he will start sprinting like anything. Till then he would conserve his energy, and then the last 400 meters he will sprint like anything, overtake many people and end the race first. So similarly, till now, at least for the last many meters, Ruchi was leading the race. Taste from the process was leading the race. But at some point, from nowhere, a desire to please Krishna takes over the ruchi and it overtakes and it starts, it ends the race. So that is asakti. Even though he is experiencing superior taste from practicing Shravanam Kirtanam also. So the amount of bliss that he is experiencing from chanting and hearing is more than ruchi at the stage of asakti. But at the stage of asakti, the desire to please Krishna is much more superior, much more deep rooted, and it takes over completely. So no longer is he thinking, am I experiencing bliss from chanting and hearing? That is not a consideration at all. So he's thinking, does it please Krishna? Does it please Krishna? Does it please Krishna? Like that. Just like when a woman accepts motherhood, suddenly she experiences a kind of selflessness that she has never experienced in the world ever before. Just like they say, when you are somewhere in Mumbai, there is in a very famous place somewhere near Bandra, there is in the middle of the road there is a big statue, a metallic statue of a lady lying down and holding a woman on top. So holding a small baby on top. And the caption that is given is, a child gives birth to a mother, which is true. Because till the child is born, you never knew that this woman had so much selflessness, so much affection, so much care, and so many other qualities hidden within her. So therefore, it's a beautifully carved or cast statue in which the theme was very wonderful. It's literally like the baby on top and the mother holding the baby in this way. It literally looks like the baby is giving birth to the mother, which is true. Because suddenly with motherhood, unimaginable facets of that lady's heart and character gets completely revealed. That motherhood reveals it. So similarly, in this case, that the person understands the kind of love that he has for Krishna. So at the stage of asakti, the creeper of bhakti bears clusters of buds. These buds will in no time becomes flowers at the stage of bhava and fruits at the stage of prema. So, but they are in bud stage at the stage of asakti. The statement that ruchi has bhajan as the object and asakti as the Lord as the object is a designation signifying the proportionate quantity. So one should not say at the stage of ruchi there is no desire to please Krishna, there is only taste coming from hearing and chanting, and only at the stage of asakti thus taste manifest. One should not say like that, a desire to please Krishna manifest. No. And nor is that at the stage of asakti the person stops experiencing any pleasure from Shravana and Kirtan, and only thing that is giving him stimulus is his desire to please Krishna. It is not like that. Both at the stages of ruchi and asakti, there is both a desire to please Krishna and bliss that he is experiencing from the process. Both are there. But at the stage of ruchi, the bliss experience from the process of bhakti is more than the desire to please Krishna. And at the stage of asakti, the desire to please Krishna, the bliss experience from the desire to please Krishna is much more than the bliss that he experiences from the bhajana kriya, the practicing the devotional limbs, like that. So this is only a proportionate, the proportion varies, but both desires exist both at the stage of ruchi and asakti. Actually, both ruchi and asakti have both components as objects, but by less intensity in taking bhajan as the object and greater intensity in taking the Lord as the object, asakti becomes distinguishable from ruchi. So in this way you can distinguish asakti from ruchi, where there is a predominance of bliss coming from pleasing the Lord and little less bliss from, comparatively less bliss from the actually performing the limbs of devotional service. Asakti polishes the mirror of the heart to such a condition that a reflection of the Lord may suddenly be visible there. Which means at asakti, he is just at the very threshold of entering into the realm of spiritual emotions. Just like you are standing on a beach, you think you are standing on the sand, but suddenly within a few seconds you are in water, and then the water recedes away, and then you are again standing on the sand, and suddenly after some time a gush, a wave comes, a big wave comes, and you suddenly see yourself standing on the water. So in this way, at the stage of asakti, is at that person is at the threshold of experiencing spiritual emotions, which actually happen at the stage of bhava. Therefore, in that polished mirror of heart, suddenly Krishna may manifest sometimes. So which means he is ready. The heart is ready. It is clean. Pravishta karnarandrena swanam bhava saroruham dhunoti shamalam Krishna salilasya yata sharat. It is mentioned in Bhagavatam that when one has great attraction for hearing the name, about the name, form, glories and pastimes of the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Lord enters the heart of that person through the ear hole and cleanses the heart of that person. Just like autumnal rains completely cleanses the lake of all the dirt and it makes the lake look crystal clear. So in this way, the mirror of the heart has been polished. The person is just waiting for the Lord to manifest, which will happen in the next stage of bhava. Before the stage of asakti, the devotee, realizing that his mind has been overpowered by material objects and desires, after putting forth deliberate effort, withdraws his mind and fixes it on the Lord's form, qualities and activities. In the stage of asakti, however, the absorption of the mind in the Lord is automatic, without effort. So, even at the stage of nishta, while he is meditating on the Lord, suddenly the mind may slowly drift away towards material topics. So then he pulls it back. Yato yato nischalati manaschanchalamasstiram tatastato niyamyetad atmanyeva vasham nayet. Like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, whenever the mind drifts away from Krishna, he pulls it back, fixes it on Krishna. But at the stage of asakti, even when a person is thinking about material things, automatically his mind goes towards the lotus feet of Krishna. It is the other way around. A devotee, even at the stage of nishta, cannot discover how his mind sometimes withdraws from the Lord and fixes itself on material affairs. Even at the stage of nishta, mostly he is thinking about the Lord only, but sometimes unnoticingly, it may drift away from Krishna's lotus feet and think about some material things for a brief while. And then he has to consciously bring it back. The quality of attachment such that the mind sometimes withdraws from material objects and absorbs itself in topics of the Lord is not seen in one who has not attained the stage of asakti. Till one reaches the stage of asakti, at the stage of asakti, even if he is thinking about matter, spontaneously the mind starts floating towards Krishna. So even Vamshidas Baba, about Vamshidas Babaji Maharaj, it is mentioned that he used to watch in the old days, the coal-fired engine trains running. So the engine will be black in color due to all that coal soot, due to burning of coal. And he would look at that black engine and then he would start running behind that engine shouting, Shyam Sundar, like that. Because even in looking at a material object, it would remind him of Krishna. Stavara jangama deki na deki taramurti, sarvatra hoy nija ishtadeva spurti. This is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells about Ramananda Rai. Ramananda Rai, I am not surprised that you are seeing me as Krishna. Because Ramananda Rai, after the conversation with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on the banks of Godavari, he says, you are trying to cheat me. I have a strong feeling. I think you are Krishna himself. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, I am not surprised that you are thinking this way, Ramananda Rai. Why? Because this is the nature of a very exalted devotee. Stavara jangama deki nadeki taramurti, sarvatra hoy nija ishtadeva spurti. When an exalted devotee like you sees even trees or moving animals, they don't see the tree or moving animal, but they meditate on their worshipable Lord. So in me, if you are seeing Shyam Sundar, I am not surprised because I am sure even in seeing a tree you will remember your Shyam Sundar. Because that is the nature of an exalted devotee like you. So that is what is described here as the person at the stage of asakti. That even in seeing matter, even in hearing about matter, his mind gradually gets pulled towards Krishna. So once I remember when our batch of devotees, we had completed our brahmachari training. So we had a meeting with His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. His Grace Gaurang Prabhu had arranged for a meeting. So he was introducing each and every devotee, and he introduced one of our friends, Srinimai Prabhu, and he said he is from JJ Medical College and he is a doctor. And Maharaj spontaneously said, JJ means Jai Jai Shri Radhe Shyam. So even in hearing JJ Medical College, he remembered Jai Jai Shri Radhe Shyam. So even in hearing matter or seeing matter, perceiving matter, a person who is absorbed in Krishna consciousness, who is at the stage of asakti, he naturally gets drawn towards Krishna. So this spontaneous drift is not seen even at the stage of nishtha, it is mentioned. Rather at the stage of nishtha, it is the other way around. He may be constantly hearing about some spiritual subject matter, but gradually sometimes his mind may drift towards material things. So these stages are indicated of progress, are indicated in the series of verses from the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita also. And this is beautifully explained in his explanations by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He explains these various stages of devotional service. So first Krishna says, Mayyeva mana adatsva, Mayi buddhim niveshaya, Nivashishyasi mayyeva ata urdhvam na samshaya. He says, my dear Arjuna, fix your mind on me. Fix your intelligence on me. And then, Nivashishyasi mayyeva, you will attain residence in me. Ata urdhvam na samshaya, there is no doubt about it. So, he says, fixing the mind on me, mayyeva mana adatsva, this he says is called as smaranatmika bhakti. Smaranatmika bhakti means bhakti practice at the stage of bhava or prema, where the mind spontaneously runs towards the lotus feet of Krishna. Whatever obstacle may be there, Ganga will evade some obstacles. It will jump over few obstacles. It will destroy some obstacles and run towards the ocean. Similarly, the heart of a person at the stage of bhava, his mind will spontaneously run towards the lotus feet of Krishna. This is the stage of bhava and prema. Mai buddhim niveshaya. Mai buddhim niveshaya means sometimes this he calls as mananatmika bhakti. So mananatmika bhakti means sometimes the mind may not spontaneously flow. It will flow spontaneously for most part, but sometimes a big obstacle comes and it may not be able to pass. So at that time, Mai buddhim niveshaya, he uses his intelligence, and by taking shelter of various instructive verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, he redirects his mind towards the lotus feet of Krishna. So this indicates the stage of ruchi, asakti, like that. Then Krishna says in the next verse, Atachittam samadhatum nashaknosi maistiram abhyasa yogena tato mamichhaptum dhananjaya. He says, my dear Arjuna, if someone may say, I cannot spontaneously think of you, Krishna. Spontaneously I can think of matter only. So he says, Abhyasa yogena tato. Practice. Whenever the mind goes away, bring it back, fix it in Krishna's lotus feet. So, yato yato nischalati manaschanchalamasstiram tatastato niyammetad atmanyeva vasham nayat. Which means constantly look at your mind. If it drifts, pull it back, fix it. If it drifts, pull it back, fix it. This is called as third stage, Abhyasa Rupa Bhakti. So, Abhyasa Rupa Bhakti also, you can say it's a very elevated stage like Nishtha, where sometimes when the mind goes, you pull it back, fix it in Krishna. But someone may say, this is also very difficult for me to practice, because my mind is always thinking of matter only. So which means 24 hours I have to keep pulling my mind and fixing it on Krishna. I cannot function that way. I cannot do anything. So give me a better choice. What do I do? So Krishna says, okay, I will give you the last choice. Abhyase api asamartosi mat karma paramo bhavan madartam api karmani kurvan siddhim avapsyasi. So he says that if you cannot constantly pull your mind back and fix it on Krishna, no problem. Then if you cannot fix it on Krishna, no problem. Mat karma paramo bhava. He says, at least engage your senses in Krishna conscious activities, he says. If mind is not getting fixed on Krishna, no problem. Fix your senses on Krishna. At least ensure that constantly your senses are engaged in my Krishna conscious activities. This is called as mat karma paramo bhava. So this is actually sadhana bhakti practiced at the stage of anishtita bhajana kriya. At the stage of anishtita bhajana kriya, when it is very difficult to pull the mind and fix it on Krishna, he says, engage the senses, okay, in Krishna's service. So this is the threshold of pure devotional service, where mind may not engage in Krishna's service, but no problem, even if mind may not engage, at least if the senses are constantly engaged in Krishna's service, that is good enough. So this is called as, you can say, Karya Rupa Bhakti, where only the senses are engaged in Krishna's service. So, but if the senses are not constantly engaged in Krishna's service, mind can never engage. So, it is just like if we are in a house and there is a cyclone. Just 2 days back we had a cyclone in Maharashtra, cyclone Nisarga. And that cyclone is picking up lot of dust and throwing into our house. The windows are open, the doors are open, and our house is becoming dusty. So what we are trying to do, we will pick up a broom and we will start brooming. But the cyclone is still raging outside. So while we are brooming, fresh dust will keep on coming inside the house. So what is the first step we should do? The first step we should do is to close the door, close the windows, so that no fresh dust is coming inside. Then you pick up the broom and start brooming the house. Then you can collect all the dust and the house will not become more dusty. So therefore, if the mind is not constantly if we are unable to engage our mind in Krishna, no problem. First close the doors and windows. The doors and windows of our body are the senses. That is why the body is called as Navadvarapur, the city of 9 gates. So the 9 gates are the 2 nostrils, 2 eyes, 2 ears, 6, 1 mouth, 1 anus and genital. So these are the 9 senses. So the 9 senses are the 9 gates. So if we can shut the gates, we don't have to shut them, but we have to engage them, we have to give them Krishna conscious engagement. So then we can try to engage the mind. Otherwise, if we are engaging our senses elsewhere and hope that our mind will get engaged, it is our illusion. Once a devotee asked His Holiness Gaur Krishna Swami Maharaj, rather Gaur Krishna Swami Maharaj asked this devotee, क्या जपा चल रहा है कि नहीं आपका? Are you chanting or not? And then the devotee said, नहीं महाराज जी, नहीं हो रहा है. No, I am not able to chant japa. Maharaj asked, क्यों? Why? And the devotee said, मन नहीं लग रहा है. I am not able to invest my mind in chanting. So Maharaj asked, जपा नहीं करेगा तो मन लग जाएगा? मतलब if you don't chant, if you don't engage your mouth in chanting the holy names, you think over a period of time you will develop an attraction and taste for chanting. He says, first chant, first engage your senses, then mind will follow. So that's what he is telling, that first engage the senses, then mind will follow. So that's exactly what Krishna is indicating. The last stage that he mentioned is engage all your senses in Krishna conscious activities, whether your mind is engaged or not, no problem. Then what will happen? Then the mind will get all Krishna conscious impressions to meditate upon. Then the mind will engage. And when the mind is engaged, sometimes it may get deviated. So the person will pull it back. This is called as Abhyasa Rupa Bhakti. Then he will come to Mananatmika Bhakti. Then he can move on to the stage of Smaranatmika Bhakti. So this gradual transition is indicated there. So therefore, at our stage of, most of us who are listening to this may not even have reached the stage of Nishta, where we can do Abhyasa Rupa Bhakti. No problem. Don't try to engage the mind. We have to first see, are our senses engaged in Krishna conscious activities completely? But if we are allowing our senses to graze here and there in the non-Krishna conscious green pastures, then our mind will also follow. Indriyanam hi charatam yanmano anuvidiyate tadasya harati pragyam vayur navam ivambasi. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that even if one of the uncontrolled senses, if it is roaming after the sense objects, the mind will immediately follow that senses. Just like a boat in a river or an ocean which is not anchored, when there are winds flowing in all directions, the boat will be tossed left, right, center. So therefore, we should understand. So we are almost, the time is up. So we will end our discussion here, and tomorrow when we start, we will do a quick recap of whatever we have seen at the stage of Asakti, and then we will discuss the symptoms of a person at the stage of Asakti. After that, we will start the stage of Bhava. So thank you very much for your patient listening. Praying for your association tomorrow also. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur ki Jai. श्री माधुर्य कादम्बिनी की जय। हरे कृष्ण।